everyone, welcome to HOA Fight Club. Today I'm going to go over some things that I have seen in a new governing document, a declaration that was written in 2021 by the developer who is still in control of this community. Somebody came with me just with some sort of, like an ARC approval thing that they're having issues with. And as I was going through these documents, I seen some things that kind of bothered me. The first thing was that the association is still allowing itself to do assessments to a person's account for fines, fees, and then do foreclosure for those fines and fees. In Washington State, we changed the laws so that the only thing that you can actually foreclose on somebody in Washington State is for the actual past due monthly or yearly assessment. Now, attorneys have been doing this for years where they give somebody a $50 fine and then they assess the attorney fees of $5,000 to try to collect that $50 fine. And they add that to a person's account. Now that person owes, $5,050 and it's due in 10 days. If it's not paid, then they were putting liens on and foreclosing within 90 days for those fees. So it became quite a habit for these attorneys to foreclose in Washington State. So that's why Washington State did change the laws. And it was, House Bill 1482 came in and it said, no, you can't do that. In fact, they just amended House Bill 1482 to limit attorney fees to $2,000 and to limit it has to be at least $2,000 past due, which I still think is way too low. It used to be $200. So, it matters. But what bothered me on this one the most, and I'm going to share my screen because I think that this is a great way to show you what is going on in these communities and why the system is so unjust. And it's really hard because the system is geared towards the association to protect the association, which is fine, which is great, right? We want our associations protected. But who is protecting the association and the members from the attorneys and the property managers that have identified a way to profit from the laws? So let's look at this enforcement clause. The enforcement clause down at the bottom is the part that bothered me the most. It says, notice and opportunity to be heard is not available to owners who have failed to pay an assessment. Well, that assessment could be a fine. So if you didn't pay your fine, and you haven't had a right to be heard, you don't have a right to be heard. So if they have fined you, you don't have a right to be heard. Which is really, really hard for me because you shouldn't even have a fine on your account until there's been a hearing. And so the board can put you past due real easily. All they have to do is put you past due by adding attorney fees or a fine or late fees or something that sometimes the owner is not even aware of. So then when the owner asks for these things, they're denied because they're past due for a $50 late fee or an attorney fee or a property management fee or something that's been added to their account, and they were never mailed any notices for that. So if we go on, the association has put it in their governing documents that it can put a lien for each an assessment levied against the law, which includes any fines, collection costs, and attorney fees. Well, that violates the law because the law says you can't assess those fees to the account and then include those fees and then do a lien for those fees and foreclose. But this governing document is saying that it's okay. So it's trying to supersede the law. And this is what they've done in many of the cases where the governing documents are above the law. The governing documents are above the Constitution. They're above the state laws. They're above all the laws if they have something in them that states that. So a lot of the governing documents we are above the law, So I don't think we should be allowing the governing documents to be above the law. We should probably have the law first and then the governing documents and make sure that the professionals are being monitored. So that's the problem in Washington State. And as you can see, the law here says 2,000 of assessments, not including fines, charges, interest fees, attorney's costs, can be added to the delinquent owner's account, but they still are doing that. They did the actual cost for attorney fees for foreclosing notice and all of that, but it can't exceed $2,000. Well, I bet you if we go and open some of these sheriff cells, which you can do because they are public, you can actually go to your county and say sheriff cells in King County, which is what I did. And I'm going to show you that here. I went through King County sheriff cells. I'm going to move this over just a tad. I went through the King County sheriff cells, just scanned through them for the last month. Now, this is what's coming up. We have many sheriff cells going on in our communities. So You can list them, each one of them. Look, $4,817. We're going to take somebody's home for $4,817. Now, trust me, that is more than $2,000 in attorney fees. I'm sure that the past due amount may not even be enough to be putting a lien on this person's account, yet this attorney has done so. The one thing that I do notice in Washington State, it's the same attorneys over and over and over that are doing these sheriff sales. So, and they're not just with one community, of course, they're over all these other communities. And as you can see, there's quite a bit going on. So now we're back to the beginning. But as you can see, there's so much going on with the sheriff sales. And if we are not offering due process to take these homes, don't you think we should be doing something to protect these homeowners? Who is verifying that the attorney fees are actually $2,000? Who is verifying that the debt is actually over $2,000? Who is verifying that these aren't fines, fees, and attorney's fees? Because if you go in and look, these are the records that I get from homeowners is that most of it is attorney fees. I had one that was $250, and yet there was over $10,000 or $15,000 worth of attorney fees that they were foreclosing for. So who is verifying this debt? The other question I have is the half fund. So the half fund grant is for people that are past due on their assessments, and it is a national grant. So if you are in foreclosure, you need to contact your state, find out the half fund, HAF fund grant that will help you get out of foreclosure and pay your assessments or your past due mortgage. So if you are in distress, please contact your state, contact the housing reps. They will walk you through what you need to do to get this application. But we should be doing more with that fund than paying attorney fees. So if an attorney is putting per home, say one attorney just adds 5,000, let's just say 2,000, the maximum amount, and he's got 50 homes in a community that he's put in distress because they've added a $15,000 special assessment. Now you add the $2,000 worth of attorney fees. Now that homeowner owes $17,000. Well, the $2,000 of attorney fees, is it actually $2,000 worth of attorney fees, or is it more? Are they adding more? Are they adding late fees? And then they're going to the half fund, and the half fund is paying these fees. So who is are we taking advantage of this half fund where we're paying out more attorney fees? I'd love to see an audit of the half fund. I know we're trying to get some records requests done for that, but I would love to see an audit of what they're paying out in attorney's fees for the half fund grant, because this grant could really help a lot of homeowners. And if the grant is diminished by attorney's fees, not actual past due assessments, then we are fleecing America again. We're allowing the professionals' profits to come before the people's right to be housed. So these professionals' profits are more valuable than the right to be housed in our states. And, I really am looking for solutions. I don't live in HOA. I don't make a profit from HOA. I am a nonprofit. I don't make any money from this. So I do this because it's what's right. And somebody has to speak up and say, hey, there's an issue here. We have a fleecing of America when it comes to HOA and condo associations. The professionals have learned how to be predatory. And if you see the same professionals foreclosing over and over and over, isn't there a better solution than foreclosure for these homeowners, especially if it's a $4,000 debt? It's not like we're talking about a $100,000 debt. What solutions can we have for the state? Wouldn't it be better for the state to offer a fund that actually helps homeowners pay their past due assessments, verifies that those are actual past due assessments, that they've had due process, that they've had the right to be heard, than trying to take them off the streets? I know that a news reporter did a report on what it takes to take a homeless person off the street, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe into the millions by the time they got these few people off the streets. It is expensive to take a person from homelessness and put them off the streets. It takes hundreds of thousands of dollars. It would be better for the state to have a grant or a fund to help these homeowners pay their past due assessments. to help these homeowners verify that these are past due assessments, that they've had due process, that they've had the right to be heard, and that this isn't just some board or property manager or attorney that are taking advantage of their right for profits and personal gain. So these boards have personal gains when they come after people. Not every board is bad, but not every board is good. And we as a state need to have governance over somebody. If we're not going to have governance over the association, at least have governance over the professionals that are doing the business of trying to protect the corporation. Corporate law demands that the attorney stays neutral. So if the board has an issue with a homeowner, the board should have to get its own attorney, and the homeowner should have to give their own attorney, and the association attorney should stay neutral so that it protects the association. The property manager should not have any personal gain. It doesn't matter who's serving on the board. That property manager, it shouldn't matter who's serving on the board. Yet I have property managers fighting for the current board that they don't want to leave because they know the new board is going to terminate their services for doing what they're doing. So if these professionals were staying neutral and doing their jobs and protecting the actual corporation, we wouldn't be having these issues. We wouldn't be having the foreclosures. But there's big business in foreclosure. These attorneys are making thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars each month for foreclosing. They're foreclosing on purpose. They need conflict. Otherwise, these would be communities that run on their own, that depend on the board to do what the board is supposed to do. And that is the function that is set up. The function is set up is that the board runs the community, not the property manager, not the attorney, but the members of the association. And the members' rights to vote are being diminished because they're past due on their assessments. Well, if I'm a board and I don't like you, all I have to do is put you past due on your assessments, and now I wipe out a whole community's chance to vote for anything. We need to really look at what fair voting laws are in these communities, because the government has given the power of the municipality to these communities, and they have allowed for these professionals to be above the law. So why is the government not adding extra protections and extra governance over those professionals and verifying the debt that they're putting on the homeowners of America? The debt they're putting on the homeowners to bring them to their knees and force them into foreclosure. That's the only way these attorneys make money in these communities. They don't make money for any other reason. That is their main bread and income. And if somebody did an audit, I'm sure you would find the same results that I have found, that these same attorneys are doing it, and they are doing it on purpose, and they are predatory. And I would love to see an investigation done by the state of Washington on these attorneys, where the HAP fund is being spent, and how these developers are still adding things to the governing documents that do not belong, because the laws do not permit for these kind of things to be added to our governing documents. All right, you guys, I'll see you on the next one.